Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Moritz Mungenast from 3F Studio and his amazing research projects that came into creating a company about 3D printing. So very welcome to our series on interviews of our experts and partners, collaborators. Yes, Moritz, can you please tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and how you started 3F Studio?
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation. And yes, it's somehow a long journey as an always interested person in architecture. Like since school and first start at university, I started to study civil engineering just for a short period of time because my grandfather, he's quite a famous civil engineer, and I thought, okay, this might be an interesting part. But then after 1 month, I found out, okay, no, it has to be somehow more artistic in the architectural studies as well. So I switched to architecture and finished my diploma there on different universities and did my diploma in Munich. And before I went to Lausanne, EPFL, and to Barcelona as well for Erasmus exchange. And then I just started like a normal architect, looking for some new adventures. I went to Australia and then to Paris to work with Urban architects. And I was always interested in finding new ways and thinking things in a different and a new matter. And of course, the theme of sustainability was always a topic as well. And after returning to Munich, where I'm located right now as well, I started to work for Auer und Weber Assozierte and did the alteration of the Olympic Stadium in Munich of Frei Otto. And from this project where I started like with the design for a restaurant and finished it and all the way to the end, I found out, okay, that's nice doing a project, but is there something more? And by coincidence, a former professor of mine, Richard Horden, asked me to be assistant at his chair for microarchitecture at the Technical University in Munich. And suddenly my path changed and I started teaching design for students and then switched to another chair called Emerging Technology, where there was always changing professors and I was doing the organizational part of the chair and always worked mostly in teaching. So there I found a lot of different ideas of how to teach architectural design and different approaches on sustainability. I just want to tell, like from MBRDV, Jakob van Rijs was there for a while, and there was Mario Cucinella from Italy, and totally different German architects, Max Dudler, for example. So there was a big variety and I really enjoyed it. And after those years, the topic came on at the university. There's always some research to do as well, even for architects. So I never thought of doing this, but as a matter of fact, this was more the best way to really starting experimental architecture and trying out new things. And this is how I got to my research topic of developing a 3D printed multifunctional building envelope. And suddenly I started doing some research. So, and I think as an architect, it's a somehow a natural way that you always want to try out new things. So research is not so that far off our destination, I think. And then I started doing a doctorate degree on this topic. And as an outcome, we had fluid morphology, which I created with some colleagues and students. And then we did all the testing at the university as well and found out that this is quite an interesting topic and we can move it further on, and had like a big echo in the press with this project. And then we started up a spin-off of the TU München called 3F Studio. And now I'm suddenly in the entrepreneurial theme and topic involved as well. So it's quite an interesting movement. So I'm looking forward where it's moving me at the end.
Thank you so much. It's a very interesting background and obviously a lot of expertise in engineering, architecture, design. Very impressive. Coming, for a few questions that I have in my mind is like, what you think, are the major current problems in architecture, especially as you said, you started in, and maybe it's a very busy space. And I think you are a bit like us. We are always looking for what is else there to do than just follow the established. What is it? What you thought could you improve in architecture and in general in the field that excited you to go further into your area?
I think it's a really major topic is for me the social responsibility towards society as an architect to really work in the big scale and then really work down to the small scale as well. So from the urban to the detail, let's say. And this variety is, I think, really important to have like an overview to put your project into the bigger picture. And I think that's all this participation is really important topics I think we have to tackle, that people, they are aware of taking control as well with us as architects as a guidance, but really to be open as an architect as well to new ideas from the actual people who live in the city and in the houses, and to really take on their topics. That's like the big scale. And of course, there's always this dream of using computers and all this new technology. But then it was always a problem, like where does it end? It normally just ended with a digital design, and it was really hard to put it into the real world. And I think the way we build, it's still, I think we're not using all the uh, possibilities in the right matter yet. I think there's much more potential to be taken. And this is, I think, like closing the digital chain really from a digital design to a product. This is really what captures me, like using 3D printers or robotics to actually build and make building a lot easier and affordable as well for everybody. And then the other topic is, of course, the material, like sustainability. I think in our times, this is the major topic, and I think we can't build in the way we did before. And we really have to move forward. We have to look backwards as well, and using things which were already there. I think, for example, for primary structures, timber is like a great material, which more and more gets into the cities and high rises as well. But then a topic from myself was always like, what's the equivalent transparent material which could be sustainable for facades, so that we're not only stopping with the primary structure, but then really pushing it to the boundaries as well. And that's where I think bio plastics are really an important issue for the future as well. So I think those are the three topics I think which are really important nowadays to make ourselves fit for the future, for this great scale up, I think, in building.
Makes a lot of sense. And can you, for anybody listening now, can you maybe make it a bit more, a visual and explaining, giving me a few examples of what you have created with the 3F Studio as tangible projects?
I think in the pictures you will see it's really something where we find new ways of architectural languages with the new possibilities of computational design. And like we can suddenly create complexity which was not possible before. But then what does it mean really to have this chance of doing complex geometries in a matter of the performance? So I think the great thing is now that we can use high-tech tools and processes and simulations. But the aim for us is really to create a low-tech, bespoke or a tailor-made element for the right orientation, for the right building at this certain spot and the usage, and to really find there the best solution, which is possible, but always, of course, as an architect with this kind of new design language, like pushing it really to the limits as well. I have one model here. I don't know if you, yes. This is a part of the facade, for example, where you can see it has a different inner structure, a different surface geometry. And in this different geometries, there are different functions integrated. So there are like air chambers in the middle for insulation. There's like this wave, this scale of wave, which would be for self-shading, for example. And the small surface topography, let's say, it's there for acoustic deflection. And so we can have different light qualities, and we all insert this in one panel. This is printed in one step, in one process. And we're not using any support materials. You just take it out of the printer and it's ready to go. So this is really for us the idea of closing the digital chain.
That is amazing. I think it solves a lot of problems in one go, as you said. Looking at it, what are the dimensions that you can go into? Like, because that was always like one of the objections in 3D printing, and I think you have found some really amazing results that you can
so
scale.
I think when we first started, or what put me on the really onto the direction of printing like one-to-one building components, was a company close to Munich called Foxeljet, which is a spin-off of the TUM as well. And they had like in 2011 already a printer which had a building chamber of 4 meters by 1 meter and by 2 meters. So then you suddenly thought, okay, this is a size where we can work with, and not only printing architectural models. But this was more like a sand printer, so or powder bed printer. And then right now we have really great partners where we can print interior elements on a size of 3 meters by 1 meter 50 by 1 meter with this kind of transparent plastic. And for our facade application, we're right now working with big wrap printers. They have like 1 cubic meter on size. And so we're still working in elements which we like put together on site and then install it on site. But the future will show that we're partnering up with companies like to create printers specially for our facade applications.
That sounds very interesting. Now, as we know, many investors get very excited about these new technologies. And then the next question is, what about budget? How does it compare to existing, let's take the example of a facade and then maybe the example of an interior furnishing. We do both, just to get, an idea of how it relates to it.
Yeah. So at the beginning, we were, of course, or right now are more at the high end of the facade prices. Like it's already comparable with facades at the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg, for example. So it's really custom made, high end, high quality, mostly functional integrated facades. So we're already in that area. So we're not totally off the limits where you think, okay, this is not workable. So we're cheaper than Apple facade, for example. I think already the last 2 years show us that the prices are going down. It's depending always on the printing costs. The material is not very expensive, and right now printing time is the most expensive part of the price, let's say. But we are really confident that pretty soon we're not in the low budget race area, of course, because it's a really tailor-made, high quality, it's a unique piece, what we're always creating for our clients. So it's not comparable with a standard facade. So it's always like a special thing, which is really shows that the state of the art. So I think we're pretty confident and competitive already in this high-end area. And for the interior, it's the same. It's not comparable with the how you say interior finishing of those boards, plasterboard prices, of course. But if you compare it to a tailor-made carpenter-made entrance foyer desk, office desk, we are competitive with this already as well.
Very interesting.
And especially in terms of design and this kind of circular economy or circular materiality, let's say.
Well, I think what is interesting is what we started discussing, us a bit of experts in the hospitality area, what we could do as a highlight, as a key feature to integrate it. We were discussing together and, hopefully doing soon projects about how you could, even for a hotel brand, get the logo into the facade or something. Can you maybe give some ideas how that could work? And then also we talked about that the material can be exchanged and comes back to its raw material, and you can change it without having to waste anything. I find that really interesting, especially being very concerned about sustainability. And maybe you can explain that a bit more.
Yeah. So I think the main thing is the aesthetics of this material, where you normally think, okay, plastic, a transparent plastic made out of recycled bottles, so let's say of waste. How can this be so aesthetically interesting? But the feedback we have from exhibitions and clients, that everybody's like amazed. What is this? Everybody has to touch it because it has so many different layers. And it always changes its reflection with light, and in integrated light as possible. So there's like this kind of really special element where you're not sure what is it. So it draws a lot of attention. And I think this is one of the major points. And we make really bespoke solutions, integrating logos, or make it a little bit more subtle in a way that we integrate logos in a geometrical manner, which is then shown in different effects, let's say. So, and the topic, of course, and the possibility of this material, that you, after the use, you can, even if it's a short time use, a couple of months, we can take it down, shredder the element, and making some new granulate out of it to reprint it with the same material, one-to-one, in a totally different form. So, and then we can really draw some more attention. The storyline of having this closed material loop, and then coming up with different designs every half a year or year, is always really something really new and special. And it's not this kind of waste creating, problem making approach. It's really like a closed loop.
I find it very interesting. If you think about, the renovation time in hospitality has come down to maybe every 5 years, that you could imagine if you integrate it in a hotel lobby, that you can change it, the looks with the same material, within 5 years, or whatever the time frame is for the operator or investor. I find it really interesting. Can you tell us a bit more about the plastic material? How do you derive it? I mean, you mentioned a bit, and how's the manufacturing process to get it? And what are the physical qualities? Because we talked about that you can have different colors. There's no limitation. It's not just the translucent color that you have in white or in very light, but you have quite a lot of choice.
Yes, you have a huge variety. So we have different material suppliers. Like one, for example, they're really recycling PET bottles from an airplane company, and the material of the recycled, or the color of the recycled material, is more like defined, let's say, in a way that it's always depending what kind of material you recycle. But if we use new material, which then can be really used a couple of times as well, there we have like the whole spectrum of different colors. So we can really compound every color you're thinking of. And we can even play with opacity and translucency.
Yeah, that's very interesting in combination with lighting specifically.
Yes, yeah. So this gives you we can like set up your CI color and use that in a manner specially made for you and compound it. So there it's really, it gives a wide variety.
Well, let's come to an example that you're working on for the German museum, the Deutsche Museum in Munich.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more what you're going to and what we're going to see in the near future in that museum?
So this was like an outcome of the research project Fluid Morphology that the director of the Deutsche Museum asked us, like they're having like right now a big alteration going on, the biggest one they ever made. And for that reason, they need a new main entrance, a temporary main entrance. And for this occasion, it's really beautiful, located by the river Isar in Munich, in this heart of the city. And it's like let's call it the technical Louvre of Germany. It's like a really famous museum where everybody in school, every class from all over Germany has to visit. And this is like the first connection to German engineering, for example. So it has over like 1.4 million visitors a year. And for this entry building, we designed a 3D printed building envelope with the function of self-shading and insulation as the major functions. And this is really puts us from a research project into the real world of architecture and construction. So for this project, this gave us a huge drive on the topics of testing and certification. Of course, it's a public building, so we have to do fire testing, and we passed that test. We had to do some stability tests and all the important tests. So since then, we were really confident that it's possible. So we passed all those tests, and then now the big topic is like the scale up. So it will be 250 square meters of facade. And for our mock-up, just to give you an idea, fluid morphology for the prototype, it took us like 10 days to print 1 square meter. And so we're much better now. So we are taking 3 to 4 days now for 1 square meter, but we need a lot of printers. And this is the challenge really to keep the same quality of the elements and make a really stable process. And we're happy there to have partners like 3D printing solution BASF and Sculpteo, where we doing this right now. We're just in the beginning and really looking forward to this project.
When will it be? When will it be finished? When
next year? It will be finished at the end of next year.
Oh, yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. So this is that's for us really important to show what's possible. Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. Have you done some prototyping for the interior spaces, like wall, finishes and wall elements, furnishings? Is there anything already that you created?
Yes, we created already for a fair, for a 3D printing fair, the biggest one in Frankfurt for 2019. We created there like a seating, we call it communication furniture, where you have seating integrated or standing tables, and you can integrate low resolution screens and acoustic qualities, so that the surface is not really reflecting the sound, but deflecting it, like putting it in different directions. That's one approach, and we're just developing a more, we call it acoustic skin, like inner skin for concert halls and conference halls, for example, where we can really adapt this acoustic skin to the needs of the space in an acoustic manner.
That is very interesting. That leads me to the question about the acoustic tiles that I've seen you also develop. That sounds like being ideal for conference spaces, or in general for reduction. I could even imagine it in restaurants, because it doesn't look like the typical, conference ceiling. How did you develop that, and how would you see it applied in architecture or in design?
No, I think there's a big potential because we can inherent light as well, so it won't look like just a closed and dark acoustic surface. And we can really integrate other functions as shelves or seating or other topics as well. So we're just right now developing further aspects of perforation and different topographies, let's say, to capture the sound. And this will be then like as I mentioned, like a second skin in front of the main structure, and we can adapt it to different styles of the space and of the different sizes, of course.
So what would you say could be an advantage if you are like also in private rooms within a space, like today we have a lot of open office spaces, and you might create like a little island within an open space. I'm just thinking about, because when I was working on the Airbus A380, I was developing concepts for all the different, classes. And I was working actually with the Fraunhofer Institute on a material that you could pull down from the ceiling, which in a business class, you would be able to have a private conversation. You would swivel around two chairs. You would have like four chairs facing each other. And you had this material which would, keep the sound inside and not to the outside. So you would be in a very private space. From what you're saying about your acoustic qualities, it sounds like very similar. That is an amazing, I think, feature.
I think that's a big topic for office space, that we're not designing like the average chair or the average table, but I think for this all those special functions like a capsule place where you can have some intimacy and private conversations or phone calls. I think this would be then ideal. We can adapt it to the size of people and make it like a unique design, as well for the communication areas where you could integrate like kitchen areas and seating and eating areas with those kind of topographies.
Yes, and it would really solve the problem from these kind of division elements that you find today in all the offices in the world, which kind of look very boring. Yeah. Excellent. So where do you see, how do you see the acceleration for yourself, for the company, and how would you see it's like if we look into the future in 2-3 years from now, where would we have arrived, with products like this or this technology?
I think we have like a journey for us, like with our different production products, let's say. So with the facade, we have a lot of restrictions and certification topics always, because like it's a really outdoor environment, important building component. So I think when we did the Deutsche Museum as a reference, I think then we can move forward with the facade topic. And insert more and more functions. We have a lot more ideas about ventilation and inserting transparent areas that even we have like a visual connection to the outside. This is one topic, and that we, as well as 3F Studio, start more into the production on partnerships worldwide, that we, when we have projects abroad in other countries, that we really do the design in our office, but then send off the files to the different printing farms. They produce it locally, especially hopefully out of local material, biodegradable or bioplastics made out of waste. For example, we have always this topic of chitin, shrimp shells. Neri Oxman is working with this already. And of course, the topic of algae, which there's already possible to have some transparent materials as well. So I think the material topic is a big topic for us, and all the certification as well for the facade product, and setting up like a distribution network, let's say. And on the other hand, the same would work for the interior applications as well, but I think there we are already ready to go. We already did some projects in the scale, and we know the printers can print it, and we can control the material, and are really capable of developing new design languages. And we're really looking forward to push into this market much stronger, because I think this is a great option, especially in the field of shop fittings, let's say, where there's quite a lot of turnaround, and for fairs as well, for fair stands. I think there we have like a huge potential to move on in a quicker way than with the facades, because that's a longer run, let's say.
No, I was actually thinking,
and the same with the acoustic.
That retail could be a very interesting area, because they do, especially the big brands are always looking for innovative material and application, and that's something where it could definitely fit in. Well, I find that fascinating, and I think it's exploring, especially in a time that everybody is talking about sustainability, but what you really do that makes it aesthetically pleasing, and not just for your own conscience to tick it off, but to see that we can create fascinating architecture and interior design with something that's so innovative with it. What do you see? Do you see also other materials that you could use in the future that are waste products, or from other, kind of sources that you could also integrate into 3D printing.
Yes, yeah. I think there's a lot of potential in lignin. I don't know the English word. It's like a part of the wood, let's say. For paper production, you use celluloses, and lignin is the leftover, let's say, and right now they just burn it. But it has quite some good qualities. For our application, it is opaque, so it makes it a little bit difficult in the facade. But I think that's a great topic as well, I think. So there are more and more materials which are really interesting on the market. And that's the great thing about 3D printing. I believe there's always processes where you suddenly give them a new meaning and a new design possibility, which wasn't there before. And just the point that you made, that I think it's really a great deal or a great opportunity for architects to move the sustainability really into a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing projects where people really are amazed of them, that this is a sustainable material, it's made out of waste, and it's still a great thing I want to have and I want to use. So
yes, I totally agree. And as you know, I'm ambassador for many organizations for sustainability in architecture and design, and I'm constantly looking for how can you innovate in the sector and still not compromise on the ideas of creating something aesthetically pleasing, because it has to fulfill both the functionality, our limited resources, and creating something that will awe you and that will make spaces amazing and give you alternatives of what we have today. Before we end the interview, tell me a bit about your partner and your studio, because we will interview him as on our next session, going more into detail. Maybe just a few words before we end, and then we can also tell everybody who's listening and watching us what to expect coming from Oliver, your partner.
Yes, like I have two partners, so it's Oliver Tessin and Luc Moroni. We're the three founders of 3F Studio. And yes, Oliver, he has like his own approach to 3D printing, and he's a real expert in computational design. And he made some amazing projects, like for a church, for example. He might talk about this next time as well. And then we joined forces and met each other at the university. So I think he will give you really insights on different aspects of 3F Studio as well. And Luc Moroni, he's like in charge of the design to production part. So we call him our 3D printer whisperer, because it's so important that you know what the printers can actually print, because it's not true that they can print everything. So you really have to be aware what are the limits of the process, and those information are combined with our design as well always. So we are always pushing the limits, what's printable and how can we use this information to inform our design. And I think Oliver will give you another insight on this topic.
Well, thank you so much, Moritz. It was, I think, fascinating, and I'm sure interesting for everybody watching us. We're looking forward to more detailed getting from Oliver, and I personally hope we will have our first project very soon together to also, to show in reality and real life projects what can be done, and not just, talk about it. Thank you so much, and wish you good luck on your future, and we look forward to our collaboration. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very much as well. I'm looking forward to the project that will come as well. It's a great opportunity, I think.
Thank you.